Hey guys, this is Nick and Rest, and this is She Will Talk to Me. Today we'll be discussing letting go of the ghosts of the past relationships.
Yes, we're talking about doing like Elsa and letting it go, fully letting go of dead relationships and stopping communication with the ghosts of relationship past, meaning exes that we keep allowing to pop back up into our lives. Speaking of which, do you know where I got the title from? Did you call me from a seance?
No.
It's a Frank Ocean song. It's like one of my favorite Frank Ocean songs. I guess like he's talking about the ex of the song and he's like, did you call me from a seance? You are from my past life. I hope you're doing well, bruh. And I love that part. Because I feel like that's how I talk to exes. Like, what are you like, crap, you're reminding me you still exist. Sir, what are you doing calling me? I have mentally killed you off in my head. Please stop reminding me that you are alive and living. I was doing well. I don't even understand how you're contacting me right now, sir. Yeah, it's one of my favorite Frank Ocean songs. Anyway, so let's get into it, guys. First, before we start, Neek, how good are you at letting go of dead relationships or cutting out contact with the ghosts of exes that keep coming back? And be honest. Be honest.
I gotta find out. Like you already know, it's a thing for me. It's a thing for me. More so now, I can cut off things that I don't really like. Maybe I don't cut off things so fast. I try to fill out everything before I say, "Oh, I don't want to talk to this person anymore." But like those from the past has been bad for lots of years. I think now is the first time where I'm not entertaining anybody from my past. This was the first time for my whole life.
Your whole life. And can I just ask briefly? Not to put you on spot. You let me know if I need to edit this out. But are we doing this, or a week from now, are you going to text me like mid-conversation as if I'm already in on the story, like, and blank was over here. And I'm like, wait, hold on, what is going on? Or are we like, for real, like, no, I'm not talking to anybody from my past. Never mind.
But honestly, no, I don't have a desire for it right now.
Okay.
I have a desire for it. I'm looking back at the people. It's like nobody that even makes me think twice anymore.
Good.
The last one just got out recently, and I was fine with that. Like, you don't no longer serve me. We're talking about like friends, casual. Like, I have no beef against him. I wish him well. He hits me up and say, "How you doing?" I'll respond, "How you doing?" Okay, that's great. But he was like, I just started talking to a girl. I don't even think I would care. That's how much I'm over it. Like, he could talk to me about his new girl if he wants to.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much I'm over it. But I'm just saying, I don't know if it's because I'm growing. And it's like, I know what I want now. I know for a fact what I want now. And I know nobody from the past can do that.
Progress.
Right now, but I don't think it's going to change. I don't think. I never said that I was done, though. It'd always be like, kind of in the back of my head lingering, and I don't have that feeling anymore.
Yeah. No, I think it's honest. I think for a lot of people this is something that's like hard. I think for a lot of people this is something that is hard. For me, you already know, this is not a thing for me really, but I will say this is not how I always have been though. Like maybe like definitely you've pretty much known me my whole adult life, so maybe that's like my teenage years. I feel like I did back and forth, but the longest relationship I've been in, that one, we did kind of, I don't know if I can count that because I would end things and I'd be like, I mean, no, that happened for a couple of years. So there was a point in time where like that was a thing,
but it wasn't like, I don't think like if it's like a whole bunch of time go past, I don't think you're allowed to make it like a.
Oh no.
You know how long it's been.
Oh yeah, no. Me and him would break up on Friday and be back together on Monday, and we did that
Yeah.
for years.
So
It was incredibly unhealthy.
wasn't a real, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely have something going on in my head where like you give me past a certain time, there's no renewing that, and I'm not big on like staying friends like at all. Like that's just not a thing. I just don't see the purpose of it, I guess. And the way I look at it is like if you were someone that I was like, no, but I think we'll be really, really, really great friends with, I wouldn't have dated you. I wouldn't have moved it past friendship. And the people who I had, like, okay, let's say the relationship didn't work, but I still think you're a cool individual. I feel like I blamed this on my brothers. I grew up in a house with 7 boys, and I just never seen, I just seen them. I see my brothers, my cousins, the stuff that I grew up with, like use that to take advantage of women. So I just never found it appealing to stay in contact. Like I just didn't really see a lot of examples of that working out well, where I felt like somebody wasn't trying to take advantage of the fact that one person still has feelings in some type of way. And so I just never really found it appealing. Like I have dated people and then like casually and then ended it and then just kind of like went about my life and then maybe run into each other like a year or two later, catch up and was like, oh yeah, let's go on a date. But anybody like I actually was like, no, we have feelings. My homegirls actually know your whole first name. Like they do not call you Brooks Brothers. The Brooks Brothers suit dude, him, Steve Harvey suit. Like, if they actually know your full name type of thing, like, no, once we end, that's it. Like, we're done. We're done. There's no need to rehash that. So let me ask you though, do you believe people should cut all ties with their exes?
I mean, you should.
Yeah.
It probably isn't serving you anyway, but like you were saying, if I decided to move past friendship and be with you, that means that we don't need to be friends. But me, on the other hand, I'd be like, well, you were a good friend. Maybe you'll be a good mate. So then I was like, bro, we should have just stayed friends. So I still want to be friends, but then it's like the guy might still want to linger it on, or they might still want more. And I'm like, no, I want to be a friend. So I believe you should, because it doesn't really serve you any type of purpose.
Yeah.
In reality, you should. I'm not saying that's what I do or what I would do in the future, but it probably does not serving you any type of way. I think when people cut people out, they're like, okay, like you, it's literally a ghost.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I seen them out, I still like, hey, how you doing? I'll still be carrying on a whole conversation. If I make a bond with you, it's gonna be a bond. Is that I don't have to speak for you forever, but if I see you, I'm gonna say, hey, we gonna talk a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's one of those things that it depends on you and your personality and their personality. I'm definitely not a believer that like, oh, this is a clear-cut rule for everybody. But I do think it should be the clear-cut rule for one-sided or lopsided relationships where like you obviously love them more, they took advantage of you type of thing. I personally feel like, nope, you need to cut that off. I think in toxic relationships, codependent relationships, I personally feel like that you should cut all ties. People who are disrespectful, whether that's to you, to your future partners, to people who always had an issue with boundaries before y'all even ended stuff, like that to me, like, no, you need to clearly cut that out. I feel like it's situational more than a clear-cut rule. You know, it's situational and based on people's personalities. I personally get nothing out of holding on to it. I am friends with only one ex and we share a child together. Like that was literally the cheat code. Like we got a child together. So yeah, that's the only ex in my life where I still communicate with. And I actually do see him as a friend. Like I do see him as a friend. I tell him all the time he's one of my best friends. And now it's not like we sitting there texting each other all the time. We don't call and talk on the phone for hours or anything like that. But yeah, that's literally like the only person in my life that I still communicate with. I will say though, I did date somebody before who was friends with all his exes. And I didn't really care. But I will say when I ended it, there was a couple of things that I was like side-eyeing and mostly from a like, dang, I wish these girls knew. like how he views it from his side, because I really feel like I really feel like the women weren't aware of how he viewed it. Just random conversations he's had with me, or we hang out with his friends. There was a particular conversation, but I know like there's one particular ex who, I don't remember how the conversation was brought up, but the conversation was brought up, and like the way he talked about it was just kind of like gloating, like she's still so in love with me, and I ain't never gonna marry her. Like I'm never gonna be where I don't want this. I don't, but that's just fam though. She cool. She a good woman, she kind of keep hoping that, one of these days I'm eventually gonna fall for her and I'm gonna marry her, but I'm not. Like, I do not want to marry that woman, but she cool people, blah, blah. Like, and that's how he talked about her. And of course, obviously that created an issue with me, and not from like a jealousy standpoint, but a standpoint of like, ew, is that who you are? Are you that guy? Like because it came off to me very much like, again, one of those situations where one person knows the other person cares more, and they use that. Like they use that. And I really think people who in like that particular situation, like kind of string the other person along as their backup plan. Yeah. Like if eventually nobody else will put up with my bullshit, when I turn 54, I'm gonna marry her because she's still here. Like that's kind of how I look at it.
Mm-hmm. I asked the person before, like, do you care if you don't get married to like 45, 50? They said, yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, you would be surprised. I know a couple of people like that. One of my homeboys is like that. Like he, we had a conversation like maybe December, where I was asking, because they're dating a really great girl and they were like really hype over like what they're going to get her for Christmas. So I thought they were going to propose. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're proposing. They're just like, proposing. Like, and I was just like, yeah, because the last time we met her, like she kind of made it clear, like she wants to get married and have a family. And like, we all thought you want to get married and have a family. And he was just kind of like, yeah, but like, I'm only 39. I'm like, sir, like, I'm only 39. Like, yes, that's still very, very young, but also like,
so that.
Yeah. Like, how long did you plan to drag this out, sir? Like, where does she know that you plan to drag this out? But with that said, I think that you have to be very, very careful with that. And I just think, it can be a slippery slope. And if you are honest with yourself about who you are, your personality, and how you typically handle those things, and the person you're dealing with, who they are, their personality, how they handle those things. Like if this is something you still have feelings for, and that in the back of your heart, you're still kind of hoping that this kind of falls back into place and so forth, maybe reconsider if you should be friends. If you know that you love this person so much and in the past they have taken advantage of that, maybe reconsider if this is someone that you should remain friends with. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I have seen people do this and they have been friends, but they've been friends and it came along with some heartache, with some disappointment, with some, cloudiness, with some harshness. And for some people, that's fine. I'm personally just like, I don't need that extraness in my life. And that's kind of how I look at it. Like, if I can just bypass all that, that would be great.
Yeah. But I guess you just have to figure out where they stand or where you stand, or can you accept being a friend? Like, if I was heartbroken by somebody, I definitely wouldn't want to be their friend.
Yeah.
Other way, like they could be heartbroken by me and me saying like, let's just be friends. That could be too much for them. So it's just knowing that, I guess.
Yeah, because that is definitely a thing too. I have definitely been on that side as well, where it just did not work. I really liked them as a person and was like, you know what? You cool though, you cool peeps. But I recognized that they were not there. Like when I was trying to be a friend, like they would be a friend for like a whole 2 days before, they were trying to cross over and blend lines between friendship, flirting, dating kind of thing. And I was like, okay, I don't feel like you are handling this and I don't want to feel like I'm leading you on. I don't want to get your hopes up, because now I'm starting to realize it feels like you think you're going to change my mind.
Mm-hmm. You're not.
Yeah.
Really, Like,
Yeah. I think some of that has to come with some maturity too, because I feel like there's definitely people who know that and they're just like, oh, eventually they'll get over me. And or, maybe if I keep telling them about all the people I'm dating, they'll get the hint. And it's like, why be cruel though? Like, why? why?
really be honest.
Yeah, like why be cruel? I just think that sometimes holding on to these exes and repeating the cycle and so forth, I really think you block your growth and you can also block your blessings because the people who are too involved with their exes, like if y'all cool and seems cool. But like if you have an ex, it's like, yeah, no, we're cool, we're friends, and I can obviously tell, like, nah, she trying to figure out a way to get rid of me. Like, I'm not dealing with it. Like, we're not going no further. Like, I'm not entertaining it. I'm not going to be like, I'm the one and I'm going to show it. Like, baby girl, you can have them. No problem. No problem whatsoever. And you can be doing that subconsciously and blocking your own blessings, or not even just in that way. Even if you want to speak in like a more spiritual way, it can be a matter of, you have the saying of you can't ask the universe to send you something new and better if you're still holding on to the past. And I think while that doesn't apply to all situations, I think it definitely applies to a lot of situations when it comes to exes, when it comes to old relationships, when it comes to things like that. It's like, how can you sit there and know, I want better? This is not what I consider love. And I want the type of love that I consider love. And you're still holding on to a dead relationship though. And this goes back to stalking their Instagram, if you are making fake social media pages, ask yourself why you do that. Like, I don't want nobody to get mad, but still, I want you to sit there and ask yourself, why am I doing it? Like, why am I using a fake page to figure out what they're doing? Why am I stalking their Instagram? There's obviously some still holding on, going on. And if there's still some, and real quickly, I just want to make sure I make it clear, like I have definitely created a fake page myself before. So I am not shaming y'all. Like we all got problems, okay? But like I definitely got to an age and was like, hey, I don't think my therapist would approve this. I don't think this is something that I would be okay about if other people found out. I would be highly embarrassed. I need to stop. But like, especially when it comes to an ex, it's like, okay, but why? Am I still over it? And obviously you're not if you're still doing that. Even things like posting certain things because you're hoping it catches their attention. You're hoping like, oh, I know he loved me in this dress, so let me put this dress on real quick and take this picture because I know that's going to get him in my inbox. Stuff like that. I don't believe that you can still entertain that type of things, do those type of things, and then feel like, yeah, no, I'm healed from this. I'm walked away from this, and I'm letting it go. Like, no, that is you still holding on to something that's dead.
So, when is it actually like a toxic thing? When is the past being mature and cordial and now it's something else? So, let's ask ourselves, when is it actually toxic, or when does it become toxic? When is it, going past you just being cordial to an ex, or it's starting to become like something else? Now you have to ask yourself, is this me holding on to something that's spiritually dead and that I need to move on from, or what? Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, I think for me, it's toxic when it is something that you are preoccupied with. To me, like being mature and cordial is like, okay, we bump into each other. I'm saying hi. I am, you happen to be on my timeline, you post something funny, and I'm just like, LOL, and I go about my day. It is toxic and it's past being mature and cordial when I'm purposely going to your page, when I have a preoccupation of how can I create a way for us to communicate to each other, when I can try to create a situation where now we have to talk to each other and now we're spending time with each other and so forth. I think anything where it becomes a preoccupation in your mind, where you are like now trying to figure out a way to generate something, is when it's like, now we might be stepping into territory of trying to hold on to this thing that we have already came to the conclusion that it's not going to work. What about for you?
Maybe in the past, I would go out the way. And it was always because I wasn't over the person, but clearly not thinking in the forefront that, well, it's not going to do anything for you anyways. I think when you think back on the past, for me, because I do it a lot, it's mostly thinking about the good and not the bad.
Oh, yeah. I think that's common, though. I think a lot of times people get so caught up on what the relationship had the potential to be that they grieve that more than they grieve what it actually was.
Yeah.
So the last person I ever had an attachment to that I had to separate myself from, for me, I had to recognize that I was grieving stuff that actually did not happen. I was grieving a picture in my head of where this could have gone. We had the potential for this to happen. We had the potential, blah, blah, blah. So I created this whole fantasy of the relationship in my head. And so when I recognized that, I need to walk away from this, you walk away, you get sad, you get lonely, then you miss the person because you no longer have that person of okay, something happens, you're usually the first person I call. Or, oh, this movie, I know you will love this movie. We used to love watching movies together, and I want to just go see what you kind of, going through that whole thing, and you start missing the person, you want to reach out. The last time I went through that, I had to recognize, all the things you think you miss about this person, 70% of it was not even based on them. It was just based on things they did that made you realize, oh, this could be more. So yes, we hung out, we had fun, and I enjoyed our time together. But also, you were extremely triggering to me. And you used to say and do, huh?
The whole time.
Yeah. You used to say and do things that made me feel very unsure about a lot of things, about where we're going, what we're doing, our situation, myself, the universe, if the sky was really blue. You used to just say stuff that was all types of triggering. And I overlooked that because it did not happen as much as the laughing part, the kissing part, the fun part. And so I overlooked the fact that you were triggering very huge hot topic buttons that were painful to me, that would have always meant that this was not going to work. Always, because I discussed it with y'all, talked to you about it, why I didn't like it, and yet still would do it again. And so having to sit back and talk to myself and be okay, I think I'm really sad because I found a person who made me happy, who made me laugh, who I really enjoyed spending time with, and I wanted to let my guard down for him. That's a big one. With that particular person, it was a matter of, dang, I met somebody who made me want to let my guard down. And I had not felt that in years. And I was really grieving the fact that I wasn't getting the chance to do that anymore. I was grieving the fact that I was no longer able to think about letting my guard down and being vulnerable again. That's what I was grieving. The fact that you took that away from me. The fact that this relationship ending took that away from me. Because that's something I really wanted. I really wanted to be vulnerable. I really wanted to be soft. I really wanted to really fully trust somebody. I really wanted to fully give myself to somebody. And I thought I was going to have that with you. And walking away from you meant that I don't know when that's going to happen again. And that's what I was grieving. Not you, not the relationship, not all these other things I thought I was grieving. I was grieving the fact that I thought this is where this was going to lead to. And it didn't.
We have to understand that. I think even when bad relationships, you can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yours was, okay, it was bad, but
Wait, can I just say, y'all, Neek hates this person. And I did not know the whole time that I was dating this person that she hated this person.
I did not hate him the whole time.
When the hate came in, I didn't know you hated him. It wasn't until I got over my being sad mode and was whatever. And then just went back to not caring that I even knew that. And then you would start saying stuff off the blue randomly. And I'm you really did not like him. And you're just yeah.
Going about his stuff. He would have been a good person if he had his stuff together.
Emotional stuff, yeah. If he had his emotional stuff together.
That's the emotional part. Because I was falling in love with the idea and everything else. He just messed up my dreams for you.
Now,
no more.
Well, at least now I got that. Okay, now I got that. When they try to, hey, how you doing? Like, first of all, not only did you mess up my dreams, you also messed up Neek's dreams for us. Okay, okay, you disappointed 2 women in this relationship. Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. Just every time I'm reminded, it cracks me up because I had no sense of that while we were dating. I had no sense of it whatsoever.
I felt that way while you were dating. We were both going through the exact same things at the same time. I didn't feel
this is true. You were having your own stuff. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I don't think I felt that way until the effect of it. And I'm like, especially like, you just know you have high hope for somebody. They joke for it. I mean, I don't know. Like for some of my friends, I'd be like, oh, I had high hopes for that. And then I just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
For me too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you. I definitely. I feel you.
Yeah, but even like, you know, my worst relationship ever, even with him, I could fantasize the good stuff, like the little bitty baby good stuff, because it wasn't that much good stuff. But it's just like, I don't know why I do that. I think about only the good, maybe because I'm a good person. I don't know.
First of all, the fact that you did, I just want y'all to know I almost caught a charge for Neek in this relationship. Like, not even joking matter, like, no, real talk. The only reason I didn't catch a charge is because they couldn't figure out how to spell my name. To this day, I remember them saying to me, like, once I figure out how to spell your name, I'm going down to the police station. Yeah. Oh gosh. I hated that relationship for you. I hated that relationship for you.
It wasn't answering me any type of way. It wasn't even nothing I wanted. Clearly, you see, even like in the bad relationships, it was just like, I remember one time we broke up, whatever. I went to like a Porsche, and I was like, oh, he would like this. But it's just like, why do I fantasize about only the good stuff and not the bad? Yeah. The problem. But I guess it comes with, for me, it came with growth.
Yeah. I agree with that. I will say that I think it's sometimes hard, especially after you guys broke up, you've gone about your life, and maybe you're dating again, but you haven't found anybody you really connected with, you really spark with. And you go through that period of things getting lonely, and it's easier to remember the easy stuff at that point in time. Because I'm already sad, so I'm not going to think about the sad stuff. And your mind kind of just plays a trick on you, and you're just like, oh, dang. He used to definitely go to the store and buy me Reese's and Dr. Pepper and a teddy bear when I got my period. And I would just come home to it, and he would have my favorite movie on and blah, blah, blah. And you romanticize it, and you're like, oh, and that was so great. And he always takes me on the most amazing dates. And it was so good whenever I did check his phone. Like, it's really easy to forget that last part.
Yeah. It's mostly when you're lonely. For sure. Like, definitely the lonely times is when it happens. Like, well, he was nice. He was so nice to me that one time.
And maybe he was just going through something,
Then you make a future with that, honey.
Yeah. Well, and then
did you ever figure out what he really wanted with you? No.
And also, like, there's the whole, like, I also think it's important to also recognize, like, and how did they act when you ended things as well? Like, when y'all broke up, like, was he this person? I had a girlfriend. This is when I was way, way, way younger. I think right before me and you met. So this had to be when I was like 18 or whatever. But I remember I had a girlfriend who, from like back home, who had this boyfriend, like they would break up and they would like not date each other for like 4 or 5 months, and they would get back together. But every time they broke up, he would do horrible things. Like, he would then post horrible messages about her on Facebook. One time he got mad because he found out she was dating somebody, and he like leaked some of her nudes on Facebook. Crazy stuff like that. And then they would get back together, and I would be like, what? And she'd be like, this is my twin flame. I'm like, I don't think you understand what that term means. That's not a twin flame, baby. That's not love. That's control. That is control. That is codependency and control.
Oh no. Oh. This one show was like put a ring on it. And she wants this guy to ask her to marry him. But I'm like, and she's like, one time when we were on a break, he like went to my page because she's a radio host, a radio personality. He went to that page and just wrote all this bad stuff about her. So I'm like, and you took it back after that? That was just his tactic to get you, like, that's not how you get anybody back.
And that's, again, one of those, how do I know it's toxic? That would be an example.
How did you not feel like that wasn't abusive? I feel like that's abusive.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. There is, look, we all have probably done something we regretted out of anger. But a person who cannot control themselves when it comes to, like, I want to embarrass you so much that it ruins your career. I want to embarrass you so bad that it makes it hard for your parents to look you in the eye. That is not love. That is not love. That person may not even be capable of loving. There is a certain line that if you love another person, your mind should stop you before you go there. There should be a certain line and moment in your head where you're like, you know what, let me calm down, let me stop, let me back away. Even if it crossed your mind, there should be something in you that loves them enough to go, ooh, okay, you pushing me, I'm getting toes on my edge, let me back up. Because if they're unable to do that, that is a very, very dangerous person. And you might think it might just be, quote unquote, leaking your news. It just might be, quote unquote, saying some mess and he didn't mean it on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever. But I'm telling you, a person with low impulse control is a dangerous person. And it can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And you don't want to mess with that. It reminds me... it reminds me of Mary J. and Wyclef's song 911. And the reason I bring this up is because I was chilling with some girlfriends and we were all talking about like different songs and everybody was like giving like a topic and we we're all saying different songs. And like, don't get me wrong, y'all, like I have a dark sense of humor. I like intensity. I like passion. I just huge Pluto energy type stuff. And so like, I'm usually used to being the one that everybody is like, what's your favorite love song? And everybody else is like Mariah Carey, Boyz II Men, people that actually sings like those type of songs. And I'm usually in the background somewhere like a Frank Ocean song. They're like, like that's usually me. As a matter of fact, the topic of love came up and I said Beyonce's Superpower. Love that song. And everybody was like joking around and clowning me for saying Superpower because it's a very intense song. It's like a dark love song. It's a song that's just like, this might be hard, this might be tough, but it's also a song that's like, but our love, nothing in the world can stop our love. And yeah, it's a intense song. But anyways, my homegirl took the heat off me because when it came to her, she said Mary J. and Wyclef 911. And I like spit out my drink because I was like, that's not a love song. That is a warning. Like, that is a cautionary tale. Like, what do you mean? And so, like, we discussed it and dissected. And, like, I had to break it down. Like, no, this whole song is a warning. Like, the whole song is about how this is the type of love. Like, in the song, Wyclef actually says, if this is the type of love my mama warned me about, man, I'm in trouble. I'm in real big trouble. Because it's about, this is toxic. This is the type of love that get one of us locked up. This is the type of love that makes one of us end up on the news. And it's not a love song. It is a cautionary tale. But that's what that type of stuff reminds me of. Like when people are saying those type of things, like, yeah, we broke up and then he released my news. But 3 years later, we married. Girl, run. Like that is not.
Run. Like,
right. That is a toxic bond. That is trauma bonding. That is not the love of your life. I want better for you.
Yeah.
I went off a little rant there. I'm sorry, guys. But essentially, kind of like you said, like, I think it is a toxic connection and you are holding on to quote unquote friendship or reconnecting with an ex when there was a lot of toxicity there and you ignore it. Because now we're friends. That toxicity won't be there. No, a toxic person is a toxic person. A toxic bond is a toxic bond. Okay, even if you take sex out of the toxic bond, there's still some toxicity there. And I think it's just better to be safe than sorry than to be like, well, then maybe let's just try this out. Me personally, I think it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
one of the things I always suggest is asking yourself things like, okay, who do I love more, me or them? And I find that when people ask themselves that, when an ex calls them, sends them a text, friend request or whatever, usually that's the type of question that kind of puts yourself in check of, okay, if I feel like this is somebody who I know is not good for me, I know I should not reconnect with, I know this is one who crosses my boundaries. If every time they try to reach out to you and you ask yourself that, who do I love more, me or them? And make sure you know, because by answering this, I am choosing them. Something about that should stop you. Like, ooh, hold on. Am I really saying I put this person before me? By recognize that, training yourself to say that, to identify that as, okay, every time I am choosing to reconnect with this person who's bad for me, or maybe the person isn't a bad person, but just the relationship holds you back in some way. By entangling yourself in that, I am saying that this thing is more important than me. This relationship is more important than me. They are more important than me. That should kind of put something in you to go, hold on, and give you a little more strength to hold off on replying back to that person.
That's a really good way to look at it. Because if you do, like me, if I did, I was like, and then I do it, I'll just be feeling so bad. That's a really good way to look at it.
Especially those of us with a strong ego. Like that should be like, first of all, I'm not about to. Because it's telling you that every time you feel yourself wanting to cross that boundary that you have already made with yourself out of self-protection, out of wanting to love yourself better, out of wanting better for yourself, it's an instant reminder to you that, okay, I am now facilitating and participating in my own regression. I am now choosing to hold myself back. And it's one of those things I think that kind of also brings an accountability for ourselves too.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's a good way to be accountable. Honestly.
So that is one of my tips of like how to stop yourself. One of the things that also I feel like for me personally that I have been using, that I even within like the last 3 years have used myself, is I started telling myself that it wasn't wasted time. I started viewing it as like, you know what, this was just a plot to my story. You know, like this was just a plot line to progress my story along further. And I don't know why, for me, that helps me whenever I feel caught up in my feelings or whenever I feel angry. That has been something I found that helps me, is that like whenever that comes back up, whenever it's like a situation with a past, someone from my past, and I find myself getting angry and I find myself being like, what do you want? Why are you still here? Forgot you existed. Why do you keep reminding me of your existence? Reminding myself that like, I don't need to get mad about the situation. Reminding myself like, you know what? Relationships for me have always been lessons for me. And I know we all say that like, oh, it's a growing lesson, but like, no, really, after every single time I have bonded with somebody in a serious matter, I have always walked away transformed. And it might not be right that moment, but usually that situation creates a whole new phase of my life. I usually learn a lot in that space of time while I'm with them. And then I kind of like go on into a new area of my life. That's just how relationships tend to work out for me. And I started seeing that as, you know what, you cannot be mad because that needed to happen so you could get here. And I have to remind myself of that. Like the last situation I went through, was like really kind of hurt from, because, you know, like I was talking about earlier, I had got to a point in my life where I was just like, I really don't want to be tough anymore. Like I really want to be vulnerable. I really want to be soft. I really want to let my guard down. I really want to take down all these bricks to this wall. And I got really, really mad when I had to walk away from that situation, because it felt like I had bought into the idea that I was going to be able to do that in that situation. And so when I walked away, I was pissed. I don't remember ever being that pissed at a person. And for a long time, I was mad at him, and I was not used to being mad. usually, you know how I am. Like, usually I have these certain feelings for a month. I might have a hiccup when someone, something happens. But for the most part, my everyday life, I'm just like, eh. But with that particular situation, I was just really pissed at that person. Like, I was really, really angry with them. But what I had to do is constantly remind myself of, like, you know what? But because of that situation, not just them, there was a couple of things going on in my life at that time. But because of that situation, I did walk away and started reevaluating how I relate to my emotions. I started reevaluating how I relate to my human experience as a whole. Like, I went through an extreme process of dealing with myself, dealing with my feelings, dealing with soft feelings that I normally didn't allow myself to feel. Because it made me look and be like, why were you so hurt from that? Okay, well, I'm so hurt because I believe I finally got my chance to be vulnerable. I believe I finally got my chance to be sensitive, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but why are you basing your vulnerability and sensitivity? Why did you connect it to this person? Why can't you be that without them?
Without that person, yeah.
And it changed me, and it kind of made me start reevaluating that. And then I went through this whole journey of making myself feel 30 years of feelings that I hid from myself, that I did not allow myself to feel. And so using it in that way really kind of helped me release and let go of that anger towards it. Because I was like, you know what? And I had to remind myself, even when I was going through that and I didn't know what the lesson was, what the plot line was, I reminded myself of, like, times before that. I had told myself, you know what? The last person before him that I was serious with, when I walked away from that situation, you know what? I got really deep into spirituality. I got really big into different type of things that now are a huge part of my life. And the person before that, I walked away from that situation though, and I had this whole turning phase of who I was in relationships and how some of my bad guy tendencies was affecting other people, and what tendencies about myself that I need to change. And so, I'm like, you know what, every piece is a piece that you need. And this is just the way that the universe felt you had to learn it. So just take it on the chin. Do you feel like that happens with you?
I think I'm just now accepting, like, these things happen for a reason, and that's what it is. Like, I recently came to terms, like, I know at one time I was missing, like, one ex and just wanted to be friends, or he needs to tell me happy birthday, but it really wasn't a reason for me to be that into it. But it's just like, you get so caught up in everything, especially when it's somebody you really, really love or whatever. But thinking back on it, I just found out, I just, like, realized, like, I did learn a lot though. Like each one that didn't work, I learned a lot. And I was like, I just guess I had to learn that situation. But I'm starting to realize you need to learn that and move on. I don't know why it's hard for me to move on, but I mostly think it's in my lonely moments that I revert.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's super easy. But those are the moments that I do it the most. But I'm starting to go back and think of each thing that I learned in those situations. And I probably wouldn't be a better person if I didn't learn them. So
yeah,
is what it is. Even, like, I was thinking about a few people, like, I know a few people was like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be, but I seen where I did wrong in those situations. I was like, dang, I did do that kind of wrong, or I wasn't straight honest about how I felt, and I was emotionally unavailable, but kept them on the ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all like life lessons.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is understanding that there's going to be negative feelings. Like, that's just part of the process. There's no skipping that part of the process. There's going to be some sadness. There might be some anger. There might be some frustration. And it might not be at them. It might be towards yourself, depending how the situation unfolded. But that's part of the process. And we have to stop telling ourselves, like, well, oh, why do I have to feel pain? Why do I have to? Because you're a human. It's a part of the human experience. You are still experiencing a loss of some type. It is normal to have some type of grief connected to it. And recognizing that, yes, with relationships, when we let go, that is also a grieving process. You are grieving the hopes of what that could have been. And a part of grief are those feelings, are those sadness, is that anger, is that frustration, and so forth. And we are not an exception to the rule. It's just a part of it. But every time you stop that process and decide to go back to something, to a situation that it does not fulfill you, to a person who keeps playing games with you, you just restart that process all over. You just stopping that process to restart it again. So you could have been at the end of your anger, your sadness, your frustration, but you let their picture on Instagram pull you back in. And now you gotta take a break from feeling sad for 3 months before you come back to the conclusion of this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And then you have to start it all over again.
I know that for a fact. Like, I would see that person, and then it's like, oh, happy, joy, joy. And then they do exactly the same thing every time. And it's like rebuilding everything that I built up against them again. So it's not really worth it. And you have to understand it. I had to understand, like, those sad feelings was better than reaching out and going through it and getting sad again. Let me just be in the sadness without the reenactment of it every time.
Because that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
And you know the outcome. That's like watching a movie that you never seen, but you already know the end. So you really don't want to, like, you know what I mean? Like, that just takes away from the whole thing.
You just press and rewind, but you eventually gonna have to press play, and you're gonna still have the same ending. Rewinding it does not change the ending.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think another thing to like keep in mind is like you can be cordial with an ex, and that does not mean you have to reconnect. Being cordial literally means just like I can be on my high and by. I cannot have to be angry, mad, bitter, all of that. I can just be very good for you, brother. Keep it pushing. And that's it. That does not mean that I need to follow them on Facebook or on Twitter. That does not mean we need to have a weekly chat. That does not mean we need to catch up on each other's lives. All of that. Again, just want to put it out there. If you are able to do that, and you're able to do that in a healthy way with another person who can do that in a healthy way, and that works for you guys, by all means, do you. We are specifically talking about those connections that are not healthy, those connections that are one-sided, those connections that you really aren't over. Those are the ones we're talking about. Those are the ones you might need to reconsider. And those are the ones we are saying, do not put yourself through the torture of this back and forth energy that just starves off all growth.
To sum it up, ways to let go of relationships past are to, first of all, grieve it and just feel it and process it, but let it go. And don't just think about the time lost. Think about what you learned from it. Try to reconnect with who you are outside of that relationship. And just build on yourself and get to know yourself better, but just learning who you are without that relationship and learning what your true wants and needs are. And also you need to understand that if it was toxic, it was for your good to leave. And also you will love again. And next time when you learn, it will be someone who's a better match and someone that you don't have to force things with. Just knowing that if you had to diminish a part of you to love that person, they might not be the person for you. And it was a reason that it didn't work out.
Yes. Especially that last part. You will love again. And your next love can be greater if you allow yourself to learn the lessons from those things. Even when it was a great relationship, you can have an even better one because you will meet somebody that is more of a match for you. So just because the last one was good and it's like, I'll never find someone to love me again like that, or I'll love like that. Yes, you will.
That's the thing too. Like, it seems like with my relationships, I would think that, but the elevation was so real in each one.
It really was. It really, really was.
It just progressed. So it's like, you just never know what you're missing out battling in the meanwhile.
You know, if you allow, there is cycles and there is a process. And as long as you allow yourself to go through the cycles and go through the process and don't hold yourself back, you can't help but to evolve because that's how nature operates. Nature requires us to evolve every time for survival. And that applies, you can use that same law and apply it to different areas in your life. It might work and look a little bit different, but it's the same way. So when you allow yourself to let go and let yourself to evolve to the next step and not hold on to the past, not hold on to old things, not keep answering the calls of the ghosts of boyfriends, girlfriends past, you get to go to that next stage, and there's more abundance in that next stage, and there's greater love in that next stage, and there's greater opportunity in that next stage, and there's greater growth in that next stage. You just have to be willing to do the work yourself to get there. And a big part of doing that work is letting go. So guys, that is all we have for today. Hopefully you guys like today's episode. Me and Meek will be doing a switch up. So going forth, we will have our serious topics kind of like today. And then every other episode after that will be questions nobody asked us. We are really excited for a switch up. We hope you guys are really excited for a switch up as well. Other than that, we hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and make sure you catch up on all season 2 and season 1 if you have not already heard episodes, and we'll have a new episode for you guys again next Thursday. Bye.